We got to mix the mission statement with the idea that everything is relevant. Our stand-up is relevant. Living in New York is relevant because it's all how to deal with day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Is that generally it? Yeah. And how the littlest things in the world ruin your whole outlook on life just because of one day when it's really not that big of a deal, but we've got to find a way to deal with our fucking anger, basically.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Power of How. I'm Matt Fulcheron. I'm here with Brendan Tassif, Daniel Tirado. I think I've been saying your name wrong all this time.
No.
You pronounced it a little bit different when you hosted.
How?
Daniel Tirado.
No, Tirado.
No? Okay.
Tirado.
You say Tirado, I say Tirado.
Tirado. It's actually tirado, but
there you go.
There you go.
And what's
I don't think I said it that way.
And then what's my name?
Fulcheron.
That's right. You goddamn right. We're back. I'm back in Brooklyn. We had a couple weeks off because I was out of town. Daniel was out of town. Where'd you go? You went up to Toronto,
to
right?
Montreal and Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, how was that?
It was good. It was good. It was good. It's just tricky leaving the family, you know.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't come with?
No. So solo. I got a lot of work done. And the club was great, you know, some sold out shows.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. A lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
A lot of fun. Toronto's fun too. Mm-hmm. You guys played Toronto before, right?
I've played Toronto, and I very much love Toronto.
Yeah.
And wrote my opening joke in Toronto. It's got that kind of strength to it.
Yeah.
You know?
They're a
I'm not
fun
allowed
crowd.
there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Canada overall,
in general.
right?
Yep.
Damn. Till when?
2 more years.
Oh, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Who wants to go to Canada?
Me. I love Canada.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's fun and you know, Montreal. I know how to play Montreal because I'm from Montreal, but
Right.
I know a lot of New Yorkers have a harder time with Montreal because of the cultural differences and you know, the French. There's it's less of an Anglo crowd, and the culture is completely different.
Yeah.
Well, how'd you feel when you played Montreal the first time?
I was Montreal.
That's where I met you the first time, right?
So when I played Montreal, I had no reference point,
Right.
and I had no way to change things for a specific audience. So it was just
Yeah.
like my main thing was like just trying to get enough material together.
Right.
They only needed me to do 35. I mean,
right.
that's how
It's still
how
35,
new I was.
which is cool.
You're still going on last. And the way they do it in Montreal, at least with the way they did it at the club I met you at, is they put up a ton of locals. So you're really going on at the end of a showcase show.
Yeah.
Or maybe they
Yeah.
just did that for me because I was only doing 35.
And you know what? A lot of comedy clubs now are headlining comics for 35 minutes.
Yeah, that is the way to do it because
it is
like
amazing.
because
Less pressure.
People have a hard time, and you can just like go hard
Yep.
instead of that pacing it shit out. It's a new culture. It's a
Right.
new audience. People have TikTok brain.
Yep.
So 35 minutes is like, it feels like you're in church sometimes if someone's going to do an hour.
I feel less comfortable doing crowd work when I do 35.
You
know what I
shouldn't.
mean? No,
Yeah, you shouldn't.
just do bang,
'Cause you
bang,
lose
bang,
it,
bang,
yeah.
bang. But it's good to have that crowd work on tape so you can, you know, put stuff up there.
So you can keep people
Right.
interested for 15 more seconds.
Exactly. That's all that matters. All right, who cares about the 35 when
right.
you got 15 seconds?
Well, do you think it's a ploy by I mean, obviously it has to do with the attention spans of people nowadays, but do you also think it's a ploy because the last like 5 to 10 years, a lot of comics have been pushing for more pay? Do you think the clubs are now like, well, now you're only doing 35, so we can keep you at the same from the 1990s
The clubs
pay?
never have
I don't
any
think
problem.
So. No, right. I agree.
Telling you
You're saying no?
you ain't
You're
worth
not worth
shit.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's happening, it's because the clubs want it for some reason. It
Yeah.
serves them somehow.
Okay.
Because, you know, in this age of the writer's strike and now SAG joining in on the strike, it's
Right.
like comics can never strike. Comics will never have unions, and clubs will always fuck us as best they can to our face and then
Right.
complain about their bills
Yeah.
to us.
And I think this is something that I haven't seen before, but comedy, like clubs used to start on time. Like shows used to start on time.
Oh, yeah?
And now I feel like, there's easily 10 minutes late. And if there's a second show, you want to make sure you're not going over. Well, we don't have to deal with check spots in Canada, which is awesome.
Yeah,
because people are just
to the audience
honest,
that doesn't, to the audience that doesn't know, in a comedy club, the headliner has to deal with the fact that they bring the checks out to the
last 10 minutes
audience,
yeah,
and people are now paying bills while you're trying to do comedy
and close out the show.
They're doing math. You're trying to keep the momentum going. Mm-hmm. They're fucking who ordered this beef slider? I didn't get a beef slider.
Right. So in Canada, we do that after people pay the bill after the show. Because here, most people run out on, they want to skip the bill.
Yeah.
So
that happened to me. I hosted a show last Wednesday, and
it's just an honest crowd.
I know. Yeah. It's just funny that like people do that shit.
Right.
Oh, they do it all the time.
Like, wouldn't you be so fucking embarrassed if you got caught doing that?
Yeah.
I would be mortified. And you're going to get caught. But I guess you could just play dumb, and they're just happy that you play dumb and do it.
The worst thing that ever happened to me once, I love people. You guys know that.
Sure.
And I met this, I was once in Astoria having a coffee, and I was writing, and I met this woman and her boyfriend. And we just kind of befriended each other. We spoke about comedy for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I say, hey, listen, I'm playing at Dangerfield tonight. It was a Saturday night. I was like, if you guys want to come, I'll just hook you up at the door. They're like, really? Like, yeah, bring a friend. It's no skin off my back. And people think that they're taking away from my money, but no, you're not. I'm not getting paid like that. So I said, yeah, I'll put your name at the door. We text each other. Boom, they show up with a friend, 3 people, Saturday night, early show. They're so happy. I don't know if this serves a purpose, but they were really tatted up, for what it's worth, maybe I should have, I don't know. I'll explain why. And then, they get a bottle of champagne. They get shots.
I know where this is going.
Well, yeah. I know where they're going. Out of the club. So they bounce like half an hour before the show. They don't pay anything.
Oh.
The club manager says, because I said, what did I say? I have friends coming.
Yeah.
He put 3 names at the door under my name.
Right.
And then they said, yo, where are your friends? I'm like, what do you mean? They left. They left half an hour before the show. And I'm like, okay, they didn't pay anything. I'm like, what? They ordered champagne. I'm like, what? It's like, you're going to have to take care of this bill. And I was like, listen, Vince, I'm going to be honest with you. I met them today. I put them under friends, but, I was just kind of trying to bring people in. And, it was a full house. They had a great time. They seemed really nice. But yeah, and I was so embarrassed. Embarrassed. And he was cool enough to not make me pay anything.
Did you text them or call them and be like, what the hell?
What? I said, I'm going to call them right away. And he said something to me. He said, and it surprised me. He says, Danny, with people like that, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Right.
Like, what are you going to get out of it?
Sure.
And I was like, I want to let him know. And he's like, they know. They know.
Right.
Right.
It's almost a satisfaction for them.
Yeah.
Like they got away with the loot, and they're like,
right.
motherfucker.
But
you might have said something nasty to them, but it don't affect them. They have no shame.
They don't care.
No.
Yeah.
It just hit me. If you want to, I don't know if you want to fuck a club because you're resentful for whatever reason. But to meet someone, a stranger that you connected with, you bonded with, you had a good time with, and then they go out of their way to help you, and then they just say, fuck you, because for all they know, I'm paying the bill.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was.
So you're saying never trust people with tattoos?
that was the whole point. That's why I brought up the tattoos. That was the premise.
That happens to me at the restaurant because it's a nicer restaurant and people come in to celebrate stuff, and I'm. Over the course of the 2 hours, you get to know them and you're talking and you're like, hey, I'll throw you a free dessert. We'll get you some, we'll comp a glass of Prosecco for you both. Like we're celebrating and everything's all good. And then they leave $0 or just enough to cover the bill. And you're like, but I thought, I went out of my way to make sure you guys were having a good time. And then you just knowingly looked me in the eye, said thank you so much and fucked me. Like what?
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a vibe with it because they were really tatted up, I was like, I just had a vibe, but I'm like, they're cool,
Sure.
I never would ever think anyone would do such a thing.
Also in your defense, you're supposed to invite people.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to put people on the guest list if
Right.
it gets them in the door.
Yeah.
And you really assume that someone's not going to fuck you that bad.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You assume you're not going to get fucked that bad.
yeah.
It'd be one thing if he came up and said like, "Oh, they didn't tip the server or something," but to just walk out on the entire bill
And order champagne?
Yeah.
Like, who orders champagne at a comedy club?
I think there's a silver lining here. They didn't stick around to heckle motherfuckers.
Yeah.
After they
Right.
drank that whole bottle of champagne. Because clearly they're not into respect.
Yeah, it's weird how they do that. How they do the check? Because I've been at clubs where like the seller will do it at the very, very end. You guys know, and then there's other clubs where they do it like halfway through the last comic set. They'll do last call, and it like the whole last comic
Yeah.
set's totally fucked because it's like
Yeah.
you're doing last call like 2 minutes into their 15-minute set.
Right.
But I was hosting a show at Greenwich Village last Wednesday, and it was insane because the last comic who went up. He was like, "Hey man, what you're gonna have to do is we only have one card machine in the back and we only have one server. So you're gonna have you can't light me. Like I have to be up there until they run every single person's card. So they make sure they don't
Wow.
like sneak out.
Oh my God.
And it's one thing at a bigger club when there's 4 servers and everyone has separate card machines and you can just boom, 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 boom. He was up there for like 15 or 20 minutes. And this is after one of those shows where there's some spots for like paid regulars and then there's some bringer spots for younger comics. So there was 15 people on the show. And everyone's doing 5 to 7. Like everyone's doing 5 and then the paid regulars are doing 7. So I was like, I'm in the back, like as the host, like this is too long. This is too long.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Like you
right.
could see people yawning and like people like, and I was like, what? And then the lady comes out, this big stack of like all the cards, and she's like, "Okay, you can light them now." And I was like, "Fucking yeah, can I?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
did.
7:30. It's almost 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was featuring, or actually emceeing for Segura in Columbus at the Funny Bone, but they told me to stick around another day to headline the Sunday, and I'm like, awesome.
Hell yeah.
And so, and I get there, they're like, speaking of 35, they're like, "You're only doing 35." I'm like, piece of fucking cake. Piece of cake. Close it out on a Sunday. This is awesome. And then they go, the show starts and they go, "Hey, the credit card machines aren't working. Just go as long as you want."
Man.
So it turned into, I don't know how much time I'm doing. It went from I can sprint through and just fucking machine gun these jokes
Bang, bang, bang.
to I now have to like take my time. I don't like going in on a mission without knowing
Parameters,
everything.
yeah.
And did you know that right before?
Yeah, like right before. It was like, it went from like cool, calm, and collected to,
Right.
"Hey man,
Yeah.
and everything was fine, but I did crack after a while. I was
Which
like,
is-
"Look,
how much
everybody."
time?
I only did like 50 minutes, but it was like not knowing.
Yeah.
fucked
Right,
me
right,
up.
right.
And
Just staring in the back looking for somebody.
around like 42, I go, "You know what, everybody? I'll be honest with you. They don't have the credit card machines working. I'm fucking stalled. Like I spilled my guts." Because when I do comedy, I don't always. I find that if I'm guarded, I fuck myself.
Right.
So like it popped in my head, and I was like, "That's my style anyway." It's
Honesty, yeah.
slightly disrespectful, slightly man behind the curtain, and I was just like, "Blah! Here's the truth, everybody."
Right.
And,
they love that, I'm sure.
Yeah, some people loved it. Some people were like, "Oh, what?" Like a lot of people don't like that. Like a lot of people would rather have like fake confidence and bravado rather than, "I'm not so sure." All of a sudden, they don't like it, and
They love it in New York.
Yeah. Well, I that's what I'm all about. Is I'd rather dig myself a hole and see if I can get out of it than just like go full throttle and just be thinking about something else while I'm saying something.
Right.
Yes.
I
That'll
like
totally fuck you up.
I like to be honest.
Fucks me up when at the show, like something's going, like I feel like something's going wrong,
Right.
but it's like you can't say anything.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
just gonna talk up here.
Yeah, it's like the first time did we talk about this? The first time I auditioned for Broadway when I first moved here.
I think a little bit, but I'm not sure. Go ahead.
It's like I was working the World upstairs. They had a comedy club, a small room, and they said, "Danny, we need someone downstairs. Comic didn't show up. Can you do 10 minutes?" I'm like, "Yeah, hell yeah!" It's like it was like, and it was the first time I ever played Broadway. Saturday night, full house. Maybe 220 people. I go, I kill it, and it's like, all right, I'm doing 10, I'm done, 10, 12 minutes pass. like, you're closing out with your closer at 8.
Sure,
Your strongest joke. Then 12, then 15, then 17, then 19, then 20. And I'm like, shit, man. It's like, I don't mind. I don't mind doing the time.
Yeah.
It's just the order of the jokes. I just want to leave with a crazy bang.
You came here you had already been doing comedy, so you have the time.
And people are watching you too.
Right, but it's like the not knowing.
Yeah.
And then I'm on stage for 25 minutes when I'm supposed to do 8 to 10. And then I'm like, what the fuck happened? They late me at 24, 25. And I'm like, what happened? And they're like, we ran out of ice. So we had to go, the busboy had to go fetch ice and come back. And you were doing so great that we just left you on stage. Dude, you know when you're sweating on stage?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Very much.
Very aware of that.
Yeah.
And it's the not knowing.
Yeah.
It's the not knowing. How do you... It's like CK had that saying, you start off with your best joke.
Yeah.
Open with your closing bit.
Yeah.
And go from there. And that's kind of how it felt. Like I was doing my best closing bits.
Right.
And I was, by 10, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't leave because I remember once, the first time I auditioned at comics, they told me to do 5 minutes. And I left it, and I said, I'm not going over 5 minutes, but I didn't get the light. But I knew that I did 5 minutes. I was positive.
Right.
I didn't want to disrespect the club, so I left the stage, and the host didn't show up for another 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So the whole room had an empty stage for 3 minutes. So I said, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
So
I was actually just about to ask you that. If you guys know you have like 5, 7, 10, 12 minutes, but it's at like a show where the host is kind of coming in and out. So you answered it. You just stay on stage so you get the light.
I stay on stage if I can't see the. There's a lot of things I like to know when I'm doing a showcase shows. I want to know if the next comic is there.
Yeah.
I want to know if the MC is in the room. I'm keeping track of the MCs
That's
in the room.
what I do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is more important than the light. But I also, like we were just talking about before, and I just did it recently at the West Side Comedy Club, will be like, hey, did you light me?
Yeah.
Like, I'll ask. I will fucking ask because I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did a guest spot at the Stand, and all the comics are doing 10 to 12, but I was doing a guest spot, so I was doing 5. And I always audio record all my sets. So I have my phone on the stool recording, and I look over, and it's at like 4:35, and I was like, I didn't get a light. I don't see the host.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't want to, I'm newer to New York. I don't want to disrespect the club. So I was like, I'm getting off at 5.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, same thing, going to the closing bit, and I'm, like, panicking in my head because I'm like, where the fuck is the host?
For some reason, running the light is way more forgivable than going short.
Yeah. Okay.
Or what they consider short.
Yeah.
Like, if you're getting laughs and you go long, they're never mad at you. In fact, you'll notice most people go long.
Yeah.
I don't respect that. I don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't do it. As soon as I see that light, I wrap it up.
Yep.
To me, it's almost like a round of endurance. It's like I see that light, I'm like, I'm getting out of this alive.
Yeah, we're done. We're here.
Yeah, I'm not taking any more chances from here on out.
Yeah.
I am doing 2 minutes, a minute 59. I'm getting the fuck off. To me, it's like getting away with something. It's like a heist. Like I want to get out with the laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I panicked. And then the host was coming into the room to light me as I was like, and your host, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for your host. Yeah. And she was like, what? And like panicked. And I was like, you said 5. Like that was 5:50. Like where were you?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. If the host is in the room, fuck it.
Yeah.
You had an incredible week.
Yeah.
Or
We had a journey.
about it.
But this reminds me. So I got back from Hawaii and I went up at this little place called the Black Cat. And I just fucking crushed it. And then I went to the West Side Comedy Club that night, and I just fucking crushed it. Even though I was like, hey Jen, did you give me the light? And she was like, no. And I was like, all right, because I knew I did 15.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. And so I just kept going. And then later on, I was like, I asked the audience, I'm like, have you ever seen a comedian ask to leave before? And like even that got a laugh. Like I was just in the zone. And then I went to the last show before the tour. I was going on a UK tour, going to Dublin, Glasgow, Scotland, Belfast,
amazing,
London, Birmingham, Manchester, and then Reykjavik, Iceland. And so I'm
we were keeping track.
I'm in the zone. I'm like, I just crushed there. I crushed there. I go up to this place. I've seen you there before, the Tribeca Comedy Club.
Yeah.
And it's practically a bar show.
Right.
I went up there, and they're bringing me up first, and which I don't love first in New York because then it's all crowd work and then it's you. But I'm like, fuck it. 10 minutes is 10 minutes, and I'm good now. We were talking about that earlier. Like I just had 2 good sets, so in my head I'm like, I'm good now. Yeah. I'm indestructible now. Not like I was 3 weeks ago when I had that bad set. This is the new me. And I go up, and the dude gives me a terrible intro, and I think you guys will agree. He goes up there, he goes, this next comic is the funniest comic you've ever seen. He's a genius.
Oh, no. Why do you do this?
But that's easy to disarm, though.
Not for me.
No.
I went up there, I made every fucking mistake, and within 3 minutes, I go, oh my God, I can't believe it, I'm fucking bombing. Like, I said it out loud. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And, like, everybody's on their phones. Like, I instantly lost everybody.
Wow.
And I just leaned into the bomb harder than I ever have before. Like, I'm doing all my old jokes. Like, yo, is there insurance on this stage? Because I'm ripping this bitch to pieces. And I'm like, light me. Like, I just fucking went down in flames. Like, I made a decision on purpose to go down in flames. It seemed unrecoverable. It had this feeling.
Oh my God.
And I hadn't felt that way in a long time. And so I just went with it. I was like, this is just, it's like in tennis where it's like, fall. Like, just get me off the fucking stage.
Yeah.
This is
no love.
You know, and to be honest, I was getting laughs by the end. I really was, but it was just such an uncomfortable feeling. And
then you have to
I just
get on a
stuck.
plane.
And then I just like totally wrecked all my like good vibes and everything.
Right.
And I was also dealing with the fact that when I was going to the UK, the way these big shows work is the opener does 15 minutes, guest star stays for 20 minutes, and then does 5 minutes before the headliner comes on. And I'm also thinking in my head about like all my pop culture references. Like my opening joke, my favorite joke has a reference to Dick's Sporting Goods, which they don't have over there. So I've come up with another store, like maybe that'll work, blah, blah, blah. And the theme to the tour was I never got on the right sleep schedule. I had a nice seat in the airplane where I could have taken a nap on the way over there. It was a red eye, which means I was leaving at 9:30 and landing at like 4:30. But the show I was watching called Your Honor, they had it on their TV. So I'm like, let me just catch up on a couple episodes. You know what I mean? So I didn't get any sleep. Then I got there. Then I slept all during the day. And then I woke up at like 3 p.m. and then couldn't get back to bed until like, I don't know, like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
6 a.m. Woke up like right before the show.
Ooh.
Did the show. The show was awesome, but it was so funny to get off stage and have that break because you're just standing there and like people are around. And over the course of the week, people wanted to come up and do like a debriefing. Like, did you like them? Were they good? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so now you're having like this halftime locker room meeting that you don't want to have. Yeah. You just want to get up there.
We're going to make some in-game adjustments. We're going to,
and finish it out. And most of the shows were awesome. Although some of them were awesome, like only on the internet afterwards. Like you play these big stadiums,
right.
You know, and it's hard to feel the energy. But again, it's only a 15-minute thing, so you just keep your composure and you go through. But it doesn't feel like super great. Mm-hmm. Now, the good thing about the intermission was I usually would kill for the 5 minutes. Like even I thought I killed during the 5 minutes because they already knew who you were. And so you could just get into some bangers and you could like really sprint because you knew you were getting off in 4.5 minutes. And so that actually turned out to be kind of a cool thing. I never got on schedule. One day I was in 3 cities at once. I woke up in Glasgow.
Oh, wow.
Flew to Belfast and then flew to London after the show. So that was wild. God. And you know what was funny was the promoter, the guy driving us to the show was telling us all about like the Irish Civil Wars. And people were asking him like, you know, were you ever, does the beef still follow? Are you still, like, you still get in fights and stuff over this stuff? And he's telling all these stories about like how he ducked violence here, he ducked violence there.
And fell asleep.
And people, what?
You fell asleep?
No, I didn't fall asleep.
I just thought you were catching up and like, oh, you passed.
I was like, what are you talking about? No, I didn't fall asleep. I'm listening and everything. And then people are like, wow, that's crazy. You know, civil war in your own country. I'm like, are you guys crazy? Like, we're getting shot up every weekend and it's political.
This is
like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
Like, we're doing this.
Right. This is what we kind of do.
And I was opening up shows like that too. I was going like, it's nice to be someplace. I was like, I would say things like, I haven't been shot at in like 3 fucking days, which is a nice change of pace for Americans. And like people weren't like down with that. And I would be like, I like to start off the show light, stuff like that.
Right.
I paid for laundry for the first time in my life because that's what's great about a tour like that, and that's what sucks about a tour like that is all your effort goes into finding coffee, finding something to eat, finding a laundromat.
You pay laundry here. You pay for laundry here, no?
Well, let me tell you what I'm talking about is I've never paid for laundry at a hotel.
Oh, like
because I'm looking, I'm like, am I going to walk a mile?
Right.
Figure out their coins.
Yeah.
And they're, I've got cash on me. So I'm like, fuck it. I've always wanted to do this. I'm paying for laundry. And it was like 3 days worth of laundry because I only travel carry on. Mm-hmm. So it was just like every 3 or 4 days I want to do laundry. Mm-hmm. Otherwise the bad is going to influence the good in my suitcase.
Yeah.
And I turned it over and they're just like so cool about it. They're just like, yeah, what time you want it done? I'm like 9:30 a.m. They're like, yeah. We got it for you. They delivered to me 9:30 a.m., like right on the nose, and it cost me 180 American dollars.
Holy
come on.
Shit.
No.
Dude.
That's one of those ones where you get the bill in pounds, and it's still high.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I haven't even converted this yet. I got to multiply this by 125. It was at a really nice hotel, so everything costs everything. Everything costs a lot of money.
But how big was your bag? It was like a small
carry-on.
Right.
We're talking about, no, it wasn't that. It was like 3 or 4 pairs of underwear, 3 or 4 pairs of socks,
dude,
3 or 4 shirts, and it was $180. So.
And that wasn't a mistake.
That was not a mistake. I knew going. They give you the itemized receipt.
Yeah, the breakdown.
It just says you got fucked.
My God.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's wild.
I'm guessing it's the shirts, right? They iron the shirts.
Oh, press it? Was it nice?
The presentation you get
good.
is amazing. Yeah, the collared shirts, the button downs.
Like a bunch of hookers are wearing your shirts. Like, what's going on?
They were so pressed and so gorgeous. This was before I got the bill, too, so I was really admiring them.
Yeah.
Now I'd be like, just throw them back in the bag, assholes. But you got to look at it like you're getting most of your meals for free. You're getting all these accommodations for free. Right. You're getting all this travel for free.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to bite the bullet because your job as an opening act is not so much to be funny on stage. It's to be pleasant to be around. And part of being pleasant to be around is not smelling like shit.
And then and bitching about it.
You never complain.
No,
never complain about a goddamn thing. And you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
Wow.
And
I find myself in those situations. It costs what it costs situations.
Yeah.
Sometimes because I light money on fire. You guys know this.
Oh yeah, we went eating with you.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where in the moment you're like, yeah, just cost. But sometimes you get the bill and you're like, no. Right. I know it costs what it costs, but I didn't think it was going to cost this.
Yeah.
What hurts?
You can't back out. You're like, oh fuck.
What hurts is when you say, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And you kind of never should do that. You should. The way I think you're supposed to look at it as an enlightened adult is this guilt or shame, whatever I feel, serves a purpose, and that purpose is to not do this again. Mm. It doesn't serve you much to like dwell on the the shame.
In your situation, knowing me, I would have done my own laundry. I would have grabbed some Tide.
Yeah,
and just done it in the sink in the bathroom.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I have no regrets.
Right.
Whatsoever. In fact, I didn't spend that much money on the tour.
Yeah,
right.
I spent less than $500, and I went to what? Five or six, 7 cities.
4 different countries.
I did all right.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's so cool, man.
And then we went to Iceland, which was totally beautiful.
You've never been there before, have you?
I've never been there before. Totally chilled out. I totally recommend it. They speak English. They drive on the right side of the road. everybody's chill, everybody's friendly. But we stayed at this hotel, and next door they were having the Council of Europe meetings. And so people from all over the world were going to be there. Important people from all over the world were going to be there. And there was military police from around the world with machine guns in the lobby. I'm walking in, and I turn around to see if the rest of the guys are coming, and there's just this dude with like a gun. He's like a cop that I don't recognize at all. I don't recognize the uniform or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You walk in, and it's just tons of they look like soldiers. And everybody's got their eyes on you. Everybody's the hotel isn't in control of them because they're caught with something about holding a machine gun makes you feel like you're not subject to the hotel check-in staff. Right. And so no one is paying you any respect. You have to move out of their way. And it gets to the point where you can't even get in and out of there. You can't get a car there. Can't get picked up there. You have to walk a couple blocks the other way, and you have to show your hotel to a guy with a machine gun to get back in. And it was really stressful. And Tom changed hotels for different reasons, and we were going to go eat dinner at the hotel, and he couldn't get back in, even though we totally sorted it out with the front desk. The military police were like, no way, you can't come in, blah, blah, blah. And at one point, I'm standing in front of Tom while they're still trying to work it out. And this regular Iceland plainclothes cop steps right in front of me to talk to Tom, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" Like that. And then the guy with the machine gun puts his hands on me and moves me over, and it was just crazy stressful, just how much, and they had to put us on these golf carts to get it to a pickup place to go catch a ride to go to the airport. And it's raining, and you're just trying to not get wet to go to the airport so you're not wet at the airport for 7-8 days. And this one kid, it was and we're so fucking stressed out and pissed off that this kid driving us to the little checkout point, he's like, it's not usually like this, which is somebody at the hotel tells us that every 5 minutes. It's not usually like this. And I'm like, yeah, but we're here now.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't care about what it's normally like. We're paying for now. They should not have rented rooms to civilians during this shit. And he's going there's police barriers, their cars, 2 cars set up in the middle of the road. And the guy in the golf cart is just speeding towards the cop car, thinking the cop car is going to get out of the way. And then he slams on the brake, and the tour manager is hanging out the side, and he's like, God damn it, he's slow down. The guy's like, don't worry. He's like, don't tell me not to fucking worry. I'm hanging out the side of this golf cart. There's rain on me. It was so fucking stressful in that regard. But then on the other hand, we had a whole day off there. Oh, and also the show there, we were told, everybody in the UK told us, these are all just not comedians. They were just regular people. They're like, You guys are going to bomb in Iceland. Nobody from Iceland has a good sense of humor. You're going to eat shit. And I'm thinking, wow, and I walk up on stage. I'm just thinking, well, this is the last show. You just do this show, you keep it cool, go slow. Just kind of treat it like a discussion, like a lecture or something. Oh, yeah. And I'm walking out, and everyone's just cheering so hard. And I start doing the bullshit jokes up front just to acknowledge you're in the city. I'm like, I have no idea how much money I spent. I got a bag of chips, and they're like, that's 8 million kronos. I'm like, that sounds about right. Put my credit card in. Now, it didn't go over the limit. This must be fine, And they're laughing at all this ramp up stuff. And then I just go into my set, and it's just Crush City. It was the best show on the tour.
Wow.
It was absolutely amazing. And
it was a celebration of the whole thing.
Yeah, and it was so cool there to see Tom. I came in at the last third of the tour, but he had been there since April 13th, and just to see him get off stage for the whole European tour, because they went all the way from Eastern Europe
all the way back
through the UK to Iceland. And it was just so cool to see him, finish that.
This
to
is
be
the last leg, right?
Yeah.
This was the last leg of the whole thing, because he's been on tour now for almost 18 months.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
It wasn't just a European tour. It was It was the entire tour that I did the second week with him in August of 21 in New England. So it was pretty cool to like be there at the beginning and then be there at the end. And I
just traveled the world, man.
Yeah, and then the day off in Iceland was just glorious. And I had to wake up early. I can't sleep when I know I have to wake up early. So the night before the day off, we had to meet at 9 a.m. to go on this little Iceland tour. And I can't sleep. I fall asleep at like 5 a.m., wake up at 8 a.m., and I finally got to bed at a decent hour on the last day and got a good night's sleep just in time to get on a plane
for
and
12 hours.
But it's great coming west because you're ahead of the clock at that point. I was in bed at 8 p.m. Here in New York and woke up. I woke up at 4 a.m. and just like got to work because there's all this shit you're neglecting.
Yeah.
And you just have to deal with all that. And I got the post-tour depression yesterday. I'm fine today, but it was like, tour is so simple. It's just make sure you meet when you're supposed to meet on the schedule. And it comes down to basic stuff like, and even though it's not easy, like I had problems sleeping, finding food, doing laundry, but you're just putting your effort into that set tonight, like working out the kinks on your set and taking care of these little basic life needs. There's a tour manager. You go up and you do your set. They order dinner for you. And it's not real life. It's amazing. And being a comedian is a lot like, I saw this documentary about actors and Jeremy Renner was in it. And he's like, being an actor, I look for work for a living. Like that's the real job.
Yeah.
And then when you get the work, that's the best part of your life. It's almost like your leisure time in a way. Like you really have to give it all on stage, but you don't have to worry about shit.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take care of your busy work and you can slack off on your social media, even though you're getting the dopest pictures of the year, you know?
Yeah.
So
Those were some awesome pictures, dude.
It was a great experience. No doubt about it. It was like I felt like I actually accomplished something on this tour because I was intimidated about doing it all in the different cultures. And like I really showed up and did my best. And you feel like you won over some fans, people who have never heard of you. It was more satisfying than a normal tour.
Well,
for sure.
It's cool. I think the best way to write is to be like timeless and universal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So 30 years from now, your jokes are still going to be funny, regardless of the time, culture. Those are the best jokes. That's,
absolutely.
You know, that's why I can never write topical.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Like, crowds love topical.
Yeah.
They love topical.
Eat it up.
But then it serves you for 3 weeks, a month?
I never liked topical. To me, that's what Twitter is for.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know who's really good at that is, surprisingly, Bill Burr.
Well, he's amazing.
I'm being sarcastic. Yeah.
He's always got an opinion, so he's never fucked.
But his everything was topical maybe like 6 months ago will sound great on his special, or even a year ago will sound great on his special, and he just brings such a different angle to the whole thing that it's refreshing.
It only starts with the current event. Then it grows into this whole other premise that involves him, usually.
Right. And the current event is just the vehicle to get to the point that he wants to make.
Right.
The weird thing is I've seen it from the opposite end of the spectrum. You go into open mics and stuff still from time to time, and you'll see people who are like, oh, this joke about the Queen dying fucking killed, so I'm just going to keep doing it. And it's like, bro, that was like 3 months ago.
Right.
Like, come on, man. Like, it's not even that good either. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. But if you hear Burr talk, I want to hear what Burr's got to say about it. Right. A year later.
Yeah.
You know, I still want to know what he thought about it.
Because he'll start off with a crazy premise. He'll be like, yeah, I think the Queen of England was a spy who smuggled Russians into the country, or something like it's something absurd. And you go,
it's been a robot for the last 3 years.
Yeah, you go, no way. And then like he convinces you.
She died 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. I'm so happy for you.
Me too, man.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
It was awesome. I followed it.
It was exciting.
I followed every post. I
saw
was
the one on the big screen and the Unreal. It's
I played Wembley Stadium, so that's so fucking huge.
Crazy.
You know?
Crazy.
And Sean takes great pictures too.
Yeah,
Is he the
man.
one taking the pictures?
He took pictures, and then there was another guy doing videos, which the guy... Wembley was my toughest show because people were still finding their seats when I was on. So there wasn't a lot of energy, but then he cut together this post that makes me look like it looks like a whiskey commercial.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like chilling in the back, like, yeah, I pulled it off, like all laughing and shit.
I was waiting for during the video, I was waiting for it to be like, no, because it looked like a rock video, like coming off the stage with the full charge swagger and stuff. Yeah. And I texted you about it and you go, yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah, there was never a bad show, but that was definitely the most difficult to keep your composure. You know,
said it was the most difficult.
And of course, my cousin was there. Like as soon as he found out, because my cousin lives there.
Oh yeah, we talked about your cousin was asking about tickets.
And so it's always when your family shows up, that Murphy's Law. Yeah. Speaking of Ireland, it's always going to be the worst show of the tour.
Oh, bro, I have a story about that.
Yeah,
while you had your best time ever, I had probably one of the worst sets. The worst sets.
Did you miss the part where I was at Tribeca?
Bro, I
haven't bombed like that in decades.
You know what? I wish. I wish I could have bombed like that. I'm not kidding. I wish I could have bombed like that.
Oh, what happened?
Yo,
Is this back home?
No, it was here.
Oh shit.
So my buddy is a magician, and he.
This is great already.
It's a good. Yeah, it starts off great.
This is a Bill Burr premise.
He's a professional magician, street magician as well, and he. Our kids go to the same school, and he says, listen, I want to do benefit, and we're going to have a few artists. Do you want to be part of it? You'll be the comedy part of the show. And I'm like, yeah, sure. It's like, when are you doing this? And he's like, it's in about a month. But I said, great, we're doing it nighttime, right? He's like, no, we're going to do it in the afternoon. I was like, dude, comedy.
Wait for the sun to go down.
And it's like, yeah. And plus parents drink. And he's like, no, none of that. They won't have that. It's in the school. And the kids will be there.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, you know what? It's in a month. Don't worry about it. I said, I'm in. I'm fully in. And then it's a week before, and I'm like, you know what? We should do this nighttime. We should. And then he's, no, it's in the afternoon, and there's going to be a lot of kids. I'm like,
I'm listening.
Right. Yeah.
And you're telling me it doesn't pay anything? I'm there.
So it's not paying anything, and then. 3 days before the show, which is on a Saturday, and this never happens. I get
Reykjavik all over again.
I get a paid gig. They offer me a paid gig in Long Island for 2 shows. So I'm like, oh damn, do I get a paid gig, 2 paid shows, and have a great audience?
Mm-hmm.
If people want to see comedy, or do I stick to my word? And I said, you know what? I committed. I can't cancel 3 days before. I'm like, let's just do this. And there's some form of honor.
Sure.
Right. The illusion of that you're a good person. So let's do this. I'm on the second half, which is great. They'll be warmed up. So there's a magician, there's a guitarist, and then there's intermission.
Yeah.
Which is horrible. Mm-hmm. And then there's me.
Yep.
So I go up, and it's my son's school. All his friends are there. All the parents that I see, when I pick them up. Yeah. And I'm doing 15 minutes. I can do 15. I can kill 15. I got parent jokes.
Yeah.
So I show up on stage, and the kids just start yelling. So there's like a bunch of shitty paintings behind me, and I started poking fun of the paintings. They're like, no, that's not what it is. It's not a boat. It's like, it looked like the Titanic or something. Like, no, that's not a boat. I was like, what is this? A painting looked like a nativity scene. I was like, no, that's a bar. And they're just heckling me. They're we're talking about maybe a room of I'm guessing 130 people, 120, and 70% of them were kids.
Children are heckling.
Yeah. So, and then you see the parents who are tired of dealing with their kids.
Yeah.
They're not controlling their kids.
Right.
They're not happy at this point they're not enjoying a comedy show. And I'm seeing their faces, and they're no love, no enthusiasm.
I know that look.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible when you get zero love from parents.
Right.
Who, not you could do this. It's gonna be okay. Just that blank stare.
They are on your side until you walk on that stage, and then they're like, you're on your own.
Yes.
Asshole.
Yeah. And then I said, you know what? Maybe all my jokes are bombing.
Yeah.
And I'm doing like really like my classic shit.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
the great stuff. And then I said, it's not working. None of it is working. So I ask kids, all right, maybe, you know, what kind of jokes do you want to hear? And then a kid just yells out, funny ones. We want to hear funny jokes. I was like, oh man, all right. I don't have none. You're not going to get any funny jokes this afternoon. And then what I did do is I was bombing, and then I said, you know what, I'll bring just kids on stage and they'll tell jokes, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was like
Read the room, there you go.
So I started doing that, and that kind of works, but I'm avoiding my set.
I bet that worked really well, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It was a mess.
Sure.
It was
Still
a
mess.
The whole thing was a
but,
mess.
Yeah.
You know, I just trying to save my ass and also get the kids engaged because they're thinking comedy. They have a completely different sense of humor and their idea of what comedy is. Mm-hmm. So none of what I was talking about was funny to them. And then that was, you know, it was what it was. But when I stepped off stage, one of the kids came up to me and they said, you're so-and-so's father, right? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, oh man, he must be so embarrassed right now.
Oh my God.
And you're fucked too, because you can't be like, no, because
yeah.
you can't deny ever
Right.
that your son is your son.
Yeah, and
that's
that-
like sacrilegious.
Exactly.
And you can't fight
Yeah.
him. He's a kid.
It's a girl, you know,
can't punch her in the face.
She comes up to me, and that was the most hurtful. She said, you know, a friend of mine, I'm not going to mention any names, but she said, you know, we were in the bathroom, and she said, oh my God, his son must be so embarrassed. And then she's telling me about the conversation she had with her friend, and that was honestly probably the most hurtful thing.
Because she's presenting it to you like, isn't this funny? Like, aren't you laughing too about how bad you bombed? Or is she just being
No, she's just being
awful?
honest.
Yeah.
No, not even awful.
Yeah.
Just being transparent.
Right. She doesn't feel like she's being shitty.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. She was like, kind of like, almost like, oh man, that's awful for your son. How do you, and that was like, I couldn't sleep for the next 2 days because then I started worrying, will people start making fun of my son?
Right.
Will they start laughing at him? Well, and that started creating a lot of anxiety. And then I had that conversation, you know, with my son. I was like, listen, you know, it was an awful set. And he was like, no, I didn't see it that way. And, you know, which just like, and he's like, you're so funny, whatever happens. And that, it's a weird feeling. And I have no words to describe it without getting emotional, but it's a weird feeling when your kid is like your coach.
Yeah, that's
when your
wild.
kid becomes your cheerleader.
Right.
And your kid is like nothing that any kid would say would faze him.
Yeah, that's big, man.
Yo.
You know, because like we feel so vulnerable as comedians that you feel like it's your worth.
Yeah.
Like what your last set was. On top of that, they don't know how a comedy show is supposed to go.
Right.
They might think that's
Right.
what a comedy show is like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So to them, it's not as bad. To the other parents, they have a concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And-
But
and-
that's like I was like, how what's the happy ending here? That's a very happy ending.
Yeah,
sure.
you know what? I guess it is.
It is. Dude, because,
yeah, it is.
Well, as far as your greatest fear was it was going to affect him.
Right.
That's really what this is about. Bombing is bombing.
Right.
But if it was going to affect your son,
Right.
it doesn't sound like it affected him.
No.
You know?
And no one spoke about it. None of his classmates. I thought he was going to get like laughed at. And,
Right.
Your dad's not funny. And it was weird to also see parents that I do know not even saying anything, not even acknowledging. You know, like
That's the most frustrating thing about the entire.
it's not like hey, that was rough. Like yo, you did it. But no words of encouragement. They know the circumstances of what I'm playing for, and I think my biggest mistake, like I wish I would have had it was so tricky because if I was in a comedy club, I would have been truthful and said like, this is the biggest mistake, of my life to be here, and I could play. But then to say that in front of kids. Then you can't say that in front of kids.
You were in a compromised position where you couldn't take it to the fucking pull the ripcord moment.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't shit on the event. You couldn't
Yes.
shit on the kids.
Yes.
You couldn't shit on anything.
Anything. And not stay and the illusion of staying positive.
Right.
And then
So it's like you had to box without putting your hands up.
Yeah.
You know?
and
like Rocky.
and I'm getting punched, right.
They just punch each other in the face back and forth in Rocky
and if they only knew, man, I lost money
To do that.
I have kids, man. I lost money to be here, and to get like zero love or zero like a pat in the back, like yo, you did it,
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out at least.
Yeah,
Like
that wasn't that wasn't cool. But and then hear a kid say that, and then me worrying about my own kid. But overall, I think you're right. Like when I never would have had that experience with my son had I not bombed, had I not gone through that. And I think that was the most, I guess, rewarding thing to discover that,
I think
You're right. He's at that age where I'm going to be his hero for another couple of years until,
Right.
I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And then I might know something,
Yeah. Those see, one of the flaws we have as comedians is to take anything.
Yep.
And like a certain level part of you wanted to do the gig, and I just know a situation like this for me was it made me quit I ended up with a day job again in 2013, and I missed a show at the Laugh Factory because I had to go to my day job, because it wasn't just a day job, it was a day and night job, it's production. Mm-hmm. If you took the work, you were working like 14 hours. You're going to miss everything that day. And then I took another day of work. I missed a show at the Comedy Store. And then I was doing a show it wasn't the same situation as yours, but for my boss, I was doing a show for his kid's school, but it was just the parents. So it was a much more, it was a much better situation. But then I missed a show at the Comedy and Magic Club. You know how clubs are. They call you that day.
Yeah.
A lot of the times.
Yeah.
And I was like, this day job is like, even though comedy pays dog shit, it's fucking up the whole reason I'm in Los Angeles is to do these shows. And I remember I even showed up to the gig, and my boss was also a stand-up comedian, and he was like, he goes, "Oh, you came here instead of the Comedy and Magic? What the fuck?" And I was like, "I didn't want to let you down." And he was like, "You should have went to the Comedy and Magic." So it was like a double whammy.
Right.
It was like I sacrificed for the cause and still got Are you stupid?
Yeah. Sometimes I do wonder, like, I feel like assholes get away with being more successful because they self-serve, and anyone would have taken that club, but you stuck with.
I did the same thing you did.
Yeah, but because you're
But I've been told long ago by successful people, always go with more money. Like, even to the point of, if somebody offers you more money that week, cancel the fucking weekend if it's worth it.
Yeah.
If it's like 4 times the amount you're going to make and you don't care if you're going to play the place again, fuck them. Take the money. I've heard this from very successful people.
That's my hardest
And I
thing.
never had it in my heart to do. I did it one time and it backfired big time.
What happened?
Well, the setup for this show is I did a casino in Vegas through this booker out of North Carolina, and the guy never paid me. It's almost like a third party thing. This guy in North Carolina books me to work in Las Vegas. I work in Las Vegas. Las Vegas guy doesn't pay me. And it's a whole scenario. It's a long story with bad check after bad check after bad check. And then I had another gig through that North Carolina booker in North Carolina, and I got something that paid higher. And I told him, like, straight up, I go, "I got another gig that pays more, so I'm not taking your gig." And he like totally bitched me out. "This is how it works. Blah 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 blah. Have a great career." Blah, blah, blah. And I had the restraint for some reason. I didn't want to get one of these email battles, but I totally should have been like, "Dude, last time I worked for you, I didn't get paid at all." But I just let him bitch me out, and like that was that. And I don't regret it, but I also didn't like the feeling of fucking the guy over, and I didn't like the fucking talking to I got.
That's that shows a lot of character. There's a very a wonderful comic, one of the best comics in Canada, Steve Patterson, just brilliant, so brilliant. And I remember one year, I was a younger comic, but I think, if I remember well, he was offered something at Just for Laughs, like a big gala.
Yeah.
But he was headlining that weekend at the Comedy Nest. And they said, well, the show's, this weekend. And he was like, well, I'm headlining the Comedy Nest. It's like, it's a gala.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm headlining. I committed to the Comedy Nest.
Yeah.
And he, as down as he was, and they wouldn't compromise. And I'm pretty certain it was a gala Just for Laughs, or a very similar huge event. Mm-hmm. And he just said no, because he was headlining for, that room seats, 130 people.
Yeah.
And a part of me thought he's completely crazy, but another part of me was like, wow, man, that's.
I think this really ties into how we open the show, and unless you're really good friends with the club owner and you can make a living off that club. The club owner
would have been fine with it.
Yeah, to me it's like.
But he just didn't want to put that club owner in.
I know, and I don't think we can afford to think that way. I think you have to do what's best for you at all times if it's clear. And like I said, I've operated like that guy more than I haven't.
Yeah.
Where I honored my things, but I think you at least have to talk to the person and say, hey, is this going to fuck you? Otherwise, I'm going to reschedule. And the truth is, the club owners aren't going to have your back if X, Y, and Z, whatever that is. You're not popular, you go through a rough patch, blah, blah, blah. They're not going to have your back the way you need them. They're not, you can't rely on them. And so you shouldn't look out for them.
Yeah, they'll never, a comedy club, no matter how big you are. No, you could be the biggest comic. They will never need you.
There's a million comics
that will never need you.
They can put 10 guys that have 10 minutes and make the same amount of money unless you're famous.
Even if you're famous.
And then when you're famous.
As big as you are.
As big as you are. Yeah. You can only fit so many people in the club. So it doesn't matter if you have, the biggest following in the world, or if you have just enough to fill that club. You're still filling the club either way for them, so they don't give a shit.
So I think in terms of this podcast, sometimes self-care means doing what's best for you.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not going to put somebody out of business.
I had the biggest problem with that.
Me too. I think we all do.
I've done shows where I've done them before, and I go, I'm never doing that again. And then someone will be like, hey, do you want to jump on this show next month? And I'm like, it's a month away. Yeah, why not? And
let me tell you, I'm not even putting in my avails at the Tribeca Comedy Club ever again, because I can't face that. I can't face that, and I don't like the club anyway.
And it comes.
No disrespect. I don't want to shit on the club. I'm just like, nah, I'll figure something else out.
Yeah. And then it gets there, and you're like, well, I already committed. And then I run into comics, and they're like, no, I fucking cancel. I cancel every time with that.
Right.
Or there are comics who have a reputation of, you'll book them on, I have friends that produce shows, and they'll book these bigger names, and then the name just doesn't show up, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's just so-and-so. And it's like, oh, we can just cancel?
You can.
We're allowed to do that? Because if I commit to a thing, I'm like, no, we're doing this. And then I'm praying to God that they cancel the show.
I learned something.
That works, doesn't it?
Yeah. Right.
God's got time to sort that out.
He does. I remember.
Should I help out Ukraine or should I hook Brennan up?
Do you guys know Marina Franklin?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Marina Franklin, I remember once she. They were bringing back that show in Living Color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They remember.
Yes.
So this was 2011.
About 10 years ago, something like that.
And they were auditioning for In Living Color, and so we had a lineup, and then we were in the green room, and this was in a comedy club that no longer exists. It was it was at the Lower East Side. What was it? It was,
I don't know.
Whatever.
I know what you're talking about. There was a Lower East Side comedy club. That's what it was called.
Yeah. And then, so she's on first. And I said, I'm like, shit, how do you feel about going on first? Like, I'm not going on first. I said, well, the lineup is like, you're on first. Like, well, I asked to switch because I'm not going up first.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, you can do that?
Right. I know.
No?
Yeah.
Dude, I cannot begin to tell you the amount of times where I had really important showcases. When I did that thing for NBC, when I was a finalist for
Diversity?
stand-up, and when it used to be called Diversity, and then they switched it to stand-up NBC. So on the final show, on the last one, closing it out with all the agents, all the managers, everyone in the room at the Improv, I'm up first. And I'm like, a part of me is like, well, they do think I'm strong enough to open the show.
Right.
And I am strong enough to open the show. But another part of me is like, there's no way I want to open the show.
I don't want a bullet spot.
Right.
Yeah.
I want that soft third, fourth golden spot where the room is warmed up. Right. Yeah. And exactly. Without even saying a word, you know.
And clean up, baby.
Know this shit's do I even have to tell the jokes?
Right. And many times, man, I was up first and it didn't serve me, and I would have liked to have the courage to say no. You know? I remember the first time I was pretty much with the Colbert. I was offered to do the Colbert show, and they reached out to me. We love your set. Can you tweak this? I tweaked it. We love it. We want to have you on the show. Yeah. It was one of the greatest emails I got in my career in New York. And then they said, "All right, we're just going to showcase the five comics we want." And yeah, so it wasn't like it didn't feel like it was an audition. It was just, we just want to see it before we put you up. And at least that's 100% how it felt. Uh-huh. And Sam Morrill is warming up the show. So Sam Morrill, which I love, is doing Sam Morrill material, warming up a television set where everyone has to do a clean 5-minute set.
Right.
Oh, and that's not his style.
Well, it's not even a question of his style. He got booked. He did his job. Yeah. And that's, you get money, you get paid.
Sure,
you're a performer. You got to do what you got to do. You do you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the bookers. Like, what I'm saying. What are you thinking to put that blue that style of comedy right before a 5-minute clean set where you can't address anything. You can't address the crowd.
You can't break.
You got to be in, out. And I'm there, and my first 3 minutes bombed. They weren't in clean mode.
Right.
They weren't in television friendly mode. So I did okay with a set that I thought at that time was perfect and great enough for them.
They told you.
They said, let's do this. And I've been killing with that set forever. It's not to mention the nerves of, doing this and wanting to get it and wanting to do well. And then the second comic is, my job was to literally shift gears. Yeah. For the showcase. Right. That's how it felt. I'm just switching gears. And then the second comic kind of ate it a little bit, did better. And out of the 5 comics, 3, 4, and 5 landed the show. Yeah. Yep. And number 1, 2, and again, if I wonder if I said no, right? The power of saying no. Yeah. And those moments, and with NBC, I did fine. I did great, and they told me a year later you were the runner-up to win the thing. But I knew I would never. This is not the face of diversity for NBC, right? This is
you're already in the hole.
Yeah, I knew right away. But the power of saying no and a part of me, it's such a battle because a part of me is thinking, yes, I can do that. I can do anything. Another part of me is like, be smart and just place yourself where.
There's this mentality of almost like a soldier. It's like, I can do the job. I'm a pussy if I don't do the job. Yep. But it really, if it serves you better, right? Try to get away with it if you can. If you know it's going to work for you. There's some people that would like to take the bullet. That's what their act is based around. They don't want to follow somebody else's energy. But I think it's more about the sweet spot.
Hell yeah.
Right. Well, it's
3 or
always
4.
Yeah.
3 or 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to do it for us at The Power of How. And look out for yourself. Know when to say no.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Peace. Thanks for listening to The Power of How. Music by Daniel Torado, artwork by Nelson Diaz. Follow us on all the social medias at The Power of How Podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe, and check us out at patreon.com the Power of How podcast. Send us some positive vibes in the form of U.S. currency. See you next week, everybody.